Hello， 大家好，好歡迎咧收睇今次嘅周一長談。今日咧就同大家講嘅，其實唔單止影響 Richmond 市居民嘅一個好重大嘅法庭判決啦，而且甚至呢個法庭判決咧，甚至會影響全個 BC， 甚至係全個加拿大嘅一個土地判決嚟嘅。咁大家仲記得嘅話咧，喺8月嘅時候，我哋 BC 最高法院咧就係喺一單連續咗11年嘅審訊之中咧，呢一個咧就係我哋嘅原住民民族啦 ，Cowichan 嘅部落啦，咁就係控告無論係省政府啦、Richmond 市政府啦，咁仲有就係聯邦政府啦，咁仲有就另外2個嘅原住民部落，咁就係關於咧就係喺 Richmond 嘅一幅佔地7.5平方公里嘅地啦，咁就係大概咧就係喺而家Mayfair 高爾夫球場鄰近嘅一大地嚟嘅。咁咧就經過咗11年嘅審訊之後咧，咁就係判決咗而家咧原住民部落 Cowichan Tribes 咧，佢哋咧原來就喺呢一啲嘅土地上面咧，佢哋係有業權嘅。哇！咁呢一單嘅判決出咗嚟之後咧，大家就好震驚啦，因為呢啲地權咧，除咗係聯邦政府有份啦 ，Richmond 市政府有份啦，咁仲有咧就係亦都有唔少嘅私人業主咧係擁有嘅，咁仲有包括啲大公司亦都有一啲嘅貨倉喺度嘅，但係咧呢一啲嘅業主咧全部咧都冇收到法庭嘅通知喎，如在夢中，咁因此咧就係 Richmond 市政府咧就喺較早前咧就出咗信俾估計會受影響嘅私人住戶咧，大概就係150戶之內咧嘅住戶就向佢發信，就係通知佢哋最新嘅佢哋嘅業權可能會受到影響嘅情況嘅。好，咁亦都係咧，市政府亦都喺28號啦，10月28號啦，舉行咗一個嘅資訊會啦，就通知受影響嘅業主嘅。咁我哋今日咧就專登咧就請咗Richmond 市政府嘅市議員啦 Alexa Lui 啦，就嚟同大家詳細講下呢一單判案咧對於 Richmond 市嘅居民啦，甚至係 BC 省嘅居民嘅影響嘅。咁而 Alexa 咧，佢亦都係本身亦都係積極參與緊而家呢個有關裁決嘅上訴案。好啦，我哋不如就問下 Alexa 啦。Actually, after the decision made by the BC Supreme Court, what has City of Richmond done after that?
We filed an appeal because we disagree with the ruling. We have spoken with our MPs. Obviously, Chacao also sits as a city councillor, so he's in constant communication with us. We've spoke with MP Parm Baines. We also met with all of our MLAs. We've had a meeting with Attorney General Nikki Sharma from the province, and we've had a meeting with Minister Alty from the federal government to explain what we think our position is and to gain support from the province and the feds to argue extinguishment of Aboriginal title.
Indeed, can you, for maybe some residents here may not know much about the case, would you briefly explain about the impacts of the case decision?
Okay, well, the case is that the Cowichan took us and the Crown to court, saying that they had Aboriginal title over some land in the city of Richmond. It was originally 1,800 acres of land, and I think the decision says that about 800 of those acres has Aboriginal title. And what the judge says is it has Aboriginal title alongside of fee simple title. So it's now saying that 2 parties now have title to a bunch of land in Richmond. So what we're seeing on the ground is people trying to sell an apartment and not being able to sell it because the new person trying to buy it can't get a mortgage from the bank because the bank can't determine who actually owns it and who has the ability to sell it. There's another organization, they own a big piece of property. They had a plan and financing in place from a major bank to build a big warehouse and create a big business opportunity with a US company. It's like $100 million deal. They've lost the financing on it because the bank doesn't want to take the risk on a new project. So it's not canceling any old projects, but it's not helping invest in new projects. So what we're going to see, I think, in Richmond is a real slowdown in that area, and that's the Portlands. That's a major hub of manufacturing, warehousing, shipping, movement of goods. Like, this is our major heart of finance happening here in Richmond, of action happening on the ground. And so slowing that down is hugely problematic. We were working on trying to work a road through the Portlands, and that project is basically going to be stalled until we can sort out who owns the land. If we were able to get that road through, what would end up happening is then we would be able to get more people in and out of the Portlands, especially on transit. So right now, transit doesn't run very frequently because the way the Portlands run is it dead ends, and then you have to drive back out. So go in 2.5 kilometers, out 2.5 kilometers. It's not very efficient for bus service. Well, getting workers to work is very important, but you need an efficient way of running a bus, and that's on hold for 8 to 10 years while this goes through the court system.
So it has already been a great impact to not only the property rights of property owner, but also the planning of other developers or investors and even the city government.
Correct, yes. So it's putting a lot of things on hold. So while it maybe wasn't the intention, the unintended consequences are people aren't going to be able to get to work, roads aren't going to be built, warehouses aren't going to be built, people aren't going to be getting jobs in that area, and they won't be able to get to work. And they won't be able to sell their own property potentially, or they may have more trouble selling their property or buying property in that space.
You've mentioned that City of Richmond already filed a notice of appeal, and not, to my understanding, not only the city government, but also the federal government and provincial government also filed their appeal.
Yes, and the Musqueam and I believe the Port and Tsawwassen First Nation and Cowichan filed an appeal. So Cowichan wasn't satisfied with how much title they got, and so they've filed an appeal as well. So many parties. So you mean each party filed their own appeal? Yes. This is a huge, huge case. So if you look at the case, there's several pages of who are parties and who all the legal teams are. Our legal team is about this much on 3 pages, and we paid over $2 million in legal fees. Like, the amount of legal fees being paid here is astronomical.
So why I'm saying that it is because for this case, from the beginning of the trial to the decision announced in August already lasted for 11 years. And now so many different parties filed their own appeal. So does it mean it will last maybe at least another 5 to 6 years or even more than that to resolve the case?
I think a safe estimation is 7 to 10 years to get through appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada.
So that means all the projects that you've mentioned or the private owners in those areas, I can say that all will be freezed.
It could be. We're also, in our application, we applied for a stay to basically stop the ruling, put a hold on the ruling, but I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know if that will make it faster or if it'll even be accepted.
In the court decision in August, the court already said that they have considered the complication of the problem about their decision. So the court announced that they suggested an 18-month period for both parties, for the Cowichan tribes and the affected parties, to reconcile how the original title coexists with fee simple.
They said the federal government and the provincial government. So it's not actually the individual landowners and not the City of Richmond. So we weren't part of who should be negotiating.
So do you know that the negotiation has already been started or set up to be started?
I don't know. We just know from Richmond's point of view, what we're doing is trying to get a stay and have our appeal. and also try and get as many people as possible talking about this and understanding what's happened with their property, and then to contact their MLA and MP and share their concerns.
Well, because if I put myself into the shoes of the private owner in that affected area, I find it is quite frustrating. Because if even I want to sell my property to reconcile the Aboriginal right, I'm just figuring out. So, to my understanding is, I have my fee simple interest. Originally, it is 100% owned by me. If I were the private owner there, then suddenly the court announced that no, your title not 100% fee simple. There is another Aboriginal title not on your fee simple. Instead, it's the other way around. It's your fee simple indeed is sitting on an Aboriginal title. That means their priority is prior than yours. So that means for a general property transaction, if you have two title owner, you have to get two signatures when you sell on all documents. But where should I get the other parties to sign?
And that's the question we're asking, and that's why we're arguing that they can't exist together.
Yes,
that's our argument, is they can't exist together, and we're trying to not make more complications. The City of Richmond says that the two things can't exist together because there is no assurance, there is no clarity. It undermines our whole land title.
Yes, because to me is, yes, if I know it is, Alexa, suddenly found out Alexa is another title owner. Okay, I don't want to argue with you about how much you own, but I just try to get you to sign. Yes, I know this is you. But for cohesion Aboriginal title, who? Which department? Which body? Do they have a government to represent the whole cohesion tribes? Okay, because there is no clear definition of who they are.
And that's the complication, and people are running into this complication right now if they're trying to buy or get financing in that area, because the banks require title insurance. And you can't get title insurance if you can't prove that you have title. So I'm sure things will start to flesh out as a bit of time passes, but in the meantime, the City of Richmond, we hand-delivered messages to people to let them know that they're in an affected circle. We're having a meeting Tuesday night to tell people about what our position is, what we believe is happening, how their land is affected based on the rule of law, and just to give them some clarity of where they are right now in time and space, because it is a confusing thing. It is complicated. They weren't given notice. Because there's a Canada Post strike, we had to hand deliver these messages to people at their homes so that they could understand and come out and find out more.
So the property price, I believe that should have already been greatly affected. To me, if I want to purchase the property there, because it is so much uncertainties and so much risk.
Getting a bank mortgage might be problematic, and we're seeing it already that some people are having trouble getting bank mortgages. For a renewal of a mortgage, you may end up having to pay more than what the normal rate is because there is associated risk, but I don't know how that's affecting people yet. It is so. As the representative of City of Richmond people, do you think the city government will help the residents to get compensation from the federal government or provincial government? To me, it is not the responsibility of the private owners. All I can say is right now, we're going to court to fight for fee simple land and to fight for land title rights in the City of Richmond.
But the court decision, already stated very clearly that Aboriginal title supersede the fee simple.
Yes.
So if you said that the city of Richmond already filed their notice of appeal, what is there any, what is your standpoint?
Our standpoint is that we bought the land, we have title to the land, and it should be our land, that Aboriginal title can't exist alongside fee simple land. That's our stance. And our stance is that we acquired the land originally in good faith, according to the processes at the time.
But the court decision already already declared their points very clearly that because of the historical reason, these are unceded lands, so that the priority is given to Aboriginal people rather than the fee simple owner. Already stated very clearly.
Yes.
To start an appeal, you must get new arguing point.
No, you actually, you can only appeal on the arguments that were brought forward up to that point. You can't come up with new things, actually. And because Richmond argued extinguishment of Aboriginal title, it's on the table to be argued by anybody in the appeal. And what had happened was the province and the federal government did not argue extinguishment. And so had Richmond not been at the table to argue it, that argument wouldn't be available to anybody in this appeal process. And so luckily, Richmond argued extinguishment of Aboriginal title. That argument is on the table and can now be argued. The challenge also that happened was the Attorney Generals at the time, Jody Wilson-Raybould and provincially David Eby, gave directives to their own governments to not argue extinguishment of Aboriginal title. So that created the challenge. So had they argued it, then it would have been an argument that the court might have considered differently. But because the province and the feds didn't argue it, it wasn't on the table. They can now argue it if they want on appeal. And that's what we need to pressure them to do, is to argue that on appeal, so that we take away the Aboriginal title off of fee simple land.
Do you think the affected private owners in that claimed area can get any compensation from federal or provincial, or to get some compensation because the party sold the lands to them with a defective title? So
they would have to see a lawyer, and I don't know.
But do you think the city of Richmond can help them to do so in a collective base?
I think that would be down the road. I think we have to focus on getting through the appeal first, right? Because then if we win the appeal, then everything else is moot. If we lose the appeal, then also the city of Richmond is in a position where we're losing land, where we're actually losing land because our title's null and void.
The court said that now the Cowichan tribes only ask for the returning of land from federal, land belongs to federal, provincial, and even city of Richmond, but they are not going to claim their rights, even they are not going to claim their rights on private-owned properties. Do you think it can soothe some worries about the private owner on that claimed land?
It's all very good and well that they said it, but unless it's in writing somehow, like how do you go to your bank and say, oh no, they said it's okay? You need more than talk when you go to the bank or when you sell a piece of property. You need to be able to give some real assurance. And what does that assurance look like if you're a private property owner?
So if I were the private owners of those claimed area, so if I want to sell the properties, what is your suggestion for that they can do, or even the other way around for the buyers, what should they do?
You should see a real estate lawyer.
But I don't. I work for a law firm. Indeed, some clients consult us about that, and our lawyer said that, don't know. The suggestion is don't know.
if the lawyers can't give more assurance, I can't give more assurance than the lawyers can.
Yeah, but I just wonder so you mean from the city government perspective, what you can do is to focus on the appeal?
We're focusing on the appeal, and we're trying to get people to talk to their MPs, talk to their MLAs, say that this is a big issue, that it needs to be solved, and that when it goes to appeal, the federal government and the provincial government need to argue extinguishment of Aboriginal title. Because otherwise, they can't exist at the same time. It lacks certainty, and it's hurting individual people and businesses.
But actually, not only City of Richmond or not only the 7.5 square kilometers area, if it is a precedent, then that means it can apply to many different lands in BC, and not only in BC, but even in the whole country.
Yes. So even the lawyers themselves, they all presented at a forum at the UBCM, which is the Union of BC Municipalities. It's an annual convention that happens every year. It was on last month in Victoria. I attended their session, and it's actually available on YouTube. And they all said that this is the most pivotal case in BC ever in the history of BC.
Yes.
So it's extremely important case. It is precedent setting. It will affect how transactions happen in BC and certainly in Richmond. And so it is a bit of a wait and see. I'm sorry I can't give guarantees right now on, how to make somebody whole again, how to solve their fears. We can just stick to the facts of these are the facts, this is what we're fighting for, this is what we're hoping the outcome is going to be, so that we can go back to business as usual.
Yeah, because this is not only the affected lands, but and even the property transaction in other area, it will be greatly affected.
It definitely creates some uncertainty for people.
Yeah.
Certainly in the affected zone, like I said, the banks have identified it's an issue, and therefore it's an issue.
So I can expect that there will be more and more similar claims in future, especially in Richmond, because already after a successful case in Richmond. So is the city government prepared anything to these foreseeable claims in near future?
Well, we have a very strong legal team that has a lot of experience in this, as well as outside counsel that we've been working with, obviously, for the last 11 years. And, people who've been in the court case of all 500 days of hearings. So, we have a strong legal team, and we, have a strong position from where to work. Not all of the Indigenous groups work that way through the court system to try and negotiate what they're looking for, to create a treaty, or to do, to do business in the area they're in. So every Indigenous group operates differently. So, yes, it could go, but certainly it doesn't mean it will, right? Everybody doesn't run to a lawyer the same. So I can't, I don't want to fearmonger and say the whole province is going to litigation. I don't think that's true. However, if it is successful, it does open the door for more people to think that this is a viable way to do things.
Yes, this is exactly what I want to ask about. Do you think the city government can take a more proactive side that invite the Indigenous group to negotiate in advance to avoid further litigation?
The path to reconciliation is an important one. City Council has already had several dinners and things with the Musqueam Band because they're the ones that we identify as having real roots here in Richmond. So, we already have a relationship. We've already, done some things in Richmond to try and grow that relationship and work together and move forward in reconciliation.
好，咁啊傾到呢度咧，時間差唔多啦，咁即係好希望就係 大家咁多位業主咧就暫時小安無躁住啦，就係安心啲啦。我哋努力睇下嗰個上訴結果係點先。而家就冇辦法啦，唯有咧就係按兵不動住啦。好，咁傾到呢度，我哋節目時間差唔多，咁下星期再見，拜拜。